Hello everyone, myself Dr. Devan Singhal. Today I will give the lecture on material science and semiconductor physics. Initially, we studied that the fundamental unit of material is atom. In atom, center is positively charged and which is called nucleus. Electrons are distributed according to electronic configuration around the nucleus. Initially, we divide matter in three types: solid, liquid, and gas. In solid, interatomic distance is very small. In gases, the interatomic distance is very high. In liquids, the atoms are arranged or the interatomic distances in atoms are greater than solids and less than gases. In upper level, we divide solids in two parts. First one is amorphous and next one is crystallines. In amorphous, the atoms do not arranged in a regular pattern. They are arranged randomly. While in crystallines, the atoms are arranged in a regular pattern. Amorphous, the arrangement is very short range. In crystalline, this is long range. We can show the arrangement of atoms in amorphous, they are randomized, and in crystalline the atoms are arranged in a regular pattern. If we give the examples, amorphous are plastic, rubber, glass, etc., and crystalline salt, sugar, snow are the examples of crystallines. Now we move to bonds. Basically, bonds are divided in two parts: primary bonds and secondary bonds. Primary bonds are divided in three parts: ionic bond, covalent bonds, and metallic bonds. First, we move to ionic bond. In ionic bond, complete transfer of electron takes place. If I talked about Na plus and Cl minus, the outer shell of sodium has one excess electron and the chlorine atom has one less electron to complete its octet. So we write Na plus and Cl minus give NaCl. In covalent bond, sharing of electrons takes place. We know that the valency of chlorine is 7 and 7. One of each atom make a covalent bond, that is sharing of electron. This is called covalent bond. And next one is metallic bond. In metallic bond, large number of atoms are held together by mutual sharing of valence electron. Thus, in a metal, the free valence electrons no longer belong to any one atom but becomes the property of the solid as a whole. The difference between covalent and metallic bond is that in covalent bond, sharing of electron takes place. Metallic bond, a large cloud of electron, and any one of atom required that electron can share from the cloud, but it is not its individual property. Next is secondary bonds. Secondary bonds are divided in two parts, hydrogen bond and van der Waals bond. In van der Waals bond are formed in inert gases, and hydrogen bond are formed in H2 and HF, hydrogen fluoride. Next topic is band theory of solids. I think you are aware of valence band and conduction band. How these bands are formed? In today's lecture, we will study how these conduction band and valence band are formed. To understand the formation of band theory, let us take example of germanium atom. Its atomic number is 32, so electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d10, 4s2 and 4p2. Here we draw a graph between energy and distance from the nucleus. As we know that electrons and nucleus has attractive force, that's why the potential energy is negative. Here we draw potential energy curve. First we in lower line we show a nucleus, then for n is equal to 1 means 1s2 we draw 2 electron, again 2s2 for 2 electron, 2p6 6 electron, 3s2 3p6 3d10, and outer shell में there is 4s2 and 4p2. n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2 and n is equal to 3 are called inner levels, and n is equal to 4 is called valence level. As we know that the inner electrons attract with the nucleus with high intensity. As we move outward from the nucleus, these electrons are called bound electrons. N is equal to 1, n is equal to 2 and n is equal to 3, and n is equal to 4 is called valence electron, because due to the shielding effect the force of attraction is less on the electrons situated in the valence level. Now if we take two germanium atoms, we show in this figure splitting of energy levels. How will we justify it? The two nucleons and their corresponding energy levels. What happens in splitting? The nucleus of the first atom interact the electrons of the second atom, and the nucleus of the second atom interact with the electron of the first atom. Due to the interaction of these nucleus and electrons, splitting of energy levels takes place. If we take n number of atoms, the separation between the energy levels is very small, so it look like a continuous bands. In next figure we show the formation of energy bands. We draw figure energy versus interatomic distances. In this figure PQ represent conduction band, RS represent valence band, and QR represents forbidden energy gap. Why we are telling it forbidden? Because in this gap there is no existence of electrons. Why electrons does not exist in this band? Reason is that we know from Bohr's second hypothesis, for stable orbits the angular momentum must be integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. These orbits are called stable orbits. In these orbits, electron will exist only. So the energy gap in which valence electrons are situated are called valence band. The allowed bands above the valence band, which is almost empty in the unexcited state, is called conduction band. In between the conduction band and valence band, there is an energy gap in which no allowed energy level is situated. This energy gap is called forbidden energy gap. On the basis of band theory, the solids are divided in three categories: conductor, semiconductor, and insulators. In conductors, there is no energy band gap. In conductors, conduction band and valence band are overlapped to each other. Next is insulators. In insulators, there is a large band gap between the conduction band and valence band. These solids are called insulators. Last one is semiconductor. Semiconductors are those solids in which the energy gap is less than insulators and greater than the conductors. As you studied in your earlier classes, basically there are two types of semiconductor. The semiconductor found in natural form is called intrinsic semiconductor, but the conductivity of the semiconductor is very low. To increase the conductivity, we mix of impurity in pure semiconductor. Such type of semiconductors are called extrinsic semiconductors. There are two types of extrinsic semiconductors: N-type semiconductor and P-type semiconductor. When we dop some pentavalent impurity, then semiconductor is called N-type semiconductor. When we dop trivalent impurity, the semiconductor is called P-type semiconductor. Now we move to next topic, conductivity in semiconductors. In figure we show a semiconductor sample. In semiconductor sample, solid sphere shows electrons and hollow sphere show holes. When semiconductor sample is connected to battery, the electrons move to positive terminal and the holes move to negative terminal of the battery. The motion of charge carriers in definite direction is called drift. The drift velocity of electron and holes in an applied electric field is proportional to intensity of the electric field. Hence, VE proportional to E. This implies VE is equal to mu E into E, and VH proportional to E. This implies VH is equal to mu H into E, where VE and VH are drift velocity of electron and holes respectively, and mu E and mu H are their mobility. If the current density due to drift velocity VE is JE, current density means current per unit area, and VH is JH, then the total current density in an intrinsic semiconductor is capital J is equal to JE plus JH. But current density is equal to current flowing per unit area, and mathematically we can write current density is equal to current flowing per unit area is equal to number density of charge carriers multiply charge multiply drift velocity. If I calculate the dimensions of right sides, that is equal to dimensions of left side. That's why I represent current density in terms of charge carrier density, charge and drift velocity. So for electrons we can write JE is equal to N multiply E multiply minus VE. Here we write Q is equal to minus E for electrons, and as we know that the direction of electrons is opposite to directions in which current is flowing. That's why we write minus VE. Then JE is equal to NEVE, and here we replace the value of VE is mu E into E, then J is equal to NE mu E into E. Similarly for holes we can write PE mu E PE mu H E. Here we write plus E charge for holes and VH drift velocity, because holes flow in the direction of currents. That's why we put here plus sign. Then from equation 3, 4 and 5, the total current density can be written as J is equal to N E mu E into capital E plus PE mu H into E. This implies we can write this expression as J is equal to small e, in bracket we can write N mu E plus P mu H into capital E. The electric conductivity of semiconductor can be written as sigma is equal to J upon E is equal to small e into N into mu E plus P into mu H. As we know that from microscopic form of Ohm's law, J is equal to sigma E, we compare equation 6 from microscopic form of Ohm's law, so we can write conductivity. As we know that for N-type semiconductor, the majority charge carriers are electrons. That's why small n is very greater than P, then small n is near equal to Nd, where Nd is number density of donor atoms. Then equation 7 will be sigma E near equal to small e Nd mu E. Similarly, we can write for p-type semiconductor, as we know that for p-type semiconductor majority charge carriers are holes. That's why p is very greater than n, and p can be equal to Na, number density of acceptor atoms. Then sigma h is equal to E Na into mu h. This is the relations for conductivity for n-type and p-type semiconductor. Next we move to Fermi-Dirac distribution function. Fermi-Dirac distribution function gives the probability of occupancy of energy levels by fermions in terms of Fermi energy, temperature and Boltzmann constant. The probability, a function of capital E, of an electron occupying a particular energy state capital E is given by a function of E is equal to 1 upon 1 plus exponential E minus EF upon kT, where EF is called Fermi energy that an electron can have at absolute zero temperature. Absolute zero temperature means 0 Kelvin. Now we will understand the temperature dependence. Here we are considering three cases. In first case, case 1, if E is less than EF and T is equal to 0. If I put these values in Fermi-Dirac distribution function, we get Fe is equal to 1. In second case, if we put E is greater than EF and T is equal to 0, we get Fermi-Dirac distribution function 0. In last case, if we put E is equal to EF in Fermi-Dirac distribution function and T is greater than 0, we get Fermi-Dirac distribution function is equal to half. So in this way we can explain the temperature dependence on Fermi-Dirac distribution function. Thank you.